We've got a major update coming out of New York. Earlier today on SportsCenter, the conversation turned to the Knicks' pursuit of veteran guard Caldwell Pope. And let's just say, this rumor is gaining serious traction across the league. Caldwell Pope has been a championship-caliber role player everywhere he's gone. And now, New York may be positioning itself to make a run at him. We're going to break down exactly why the Knicks see him as a prime target, how the numbers could work, and why this move could reshape their off-season strategy. Here's the backdrop. Caldwell Pope is one of the most respected 3-and-D wings in the NBA, coming off a productive season and still playing at a high level. But his current situation has created an opening, with the free agency market tightening and several contenders monitoring his status. New York sees an opportunity to add a proven playoff performer who doesn't need the ball to make a massive impact. His combination of floor spacing, perimeter defense, and championship experience is exactly what this roster has been missing. This all started when a report from The Athletic suggested that multiple Eastern Conference teams have quietly reached out to gauge Caldwell Pope's market, and the Knicks are firmly in that mix. League sources indicate New York has the assets and the cap mechanics to get a deal done, but it may require some creative maneuvering. With their payroll already near the league's upper tier under the new CBA, adding KCP's salary might mean tough decisions elsewhere. That could involve moving one of their mid-tier contracts, or even parting with draft capital to free up the space. From a basketball standpoint, Caldwell Pope is just about as close to a perfect role fit for what the Knicks want to be in today's league. He's the kind of wing defender who can take on elite scorers, the type of transition threat who can punish defenses before they're set, and the kind of low-maintenance veteran who thrives next to star guards like Jalen Brunson. He knows his role, embraces it, and allows the team's offensive engine, Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Julius Randle, to operate with more freedom, knowing he's there to space the floor and lock down the other end. But the reality is, fit alone doesn't make the deal automatic. The business side of the NBA is unavoidable, and for the Knicks, the margin for error is shrinking. Bringing in KCP at his market value could mean trimming depth at other positions. On the other hand, the equation changes if they believe he's the piece that elevates them from playoff team to legitimate contender. That's the calculation Leon Rose and the front office have to make. Do they prioritize roster flexibility for the long haul? Or do they push their chips in now for a player with proven championship credentials? If Caldwell Pope comes in and plays to his strengths, staying healthy, hitting shots, locking down opposing wings, New York could find themselves in a position where they have to extend him, securing his services for multiple seasons. And here's where it gets intriguing. Sources close to the situation say KCP is open to joining a team where his role is clearly defined and his contributions valued. Both boxes the Knicks can check. While there's no official deal in place, his name has been mentioned in internal discussions as one of the team's priority targets before the season tips off. So for the Knicks, this is both exciting and challenging. Caldwell Pope's arrival would instantly raise the team's floor on both ends of the court, but making it happen will require precision in roster building and cap management. If New York pulls this off, it's the kind of under-the-radar move that could end up defining their season. That potential move could mark a major shift for the Knicks next season. We're going to walk through exactly why Caldwell Pope is emerging as a serious target, what it means for New York moving forward, and how it could shape their off-season plan. Here's the backdrop. Caldwell Pope has been a key talking point this summer, largely because his contract situation makes him both valuable and attainable. The timing got tricky for the Knicks after re-signing Mikal Bridges, which tightened the team's cap flexibility. That means any significant addition, like KCP, would require some financial maneuvering. And based on the latest buzz from league insiders, New York is actively exploring ways to make the numbers work. This all picked up momentum when a report surfaced from ESPN suggesting Caldwell Pope could be open to a move if it meant a clearly defined role and another shot at deep postseason success. In response, multiple front office sources noted that the Knicks check both boxes. and have been quietly laying the groundwork to position themselves in the mix. For context, Caldwell Pope is coming off a season where he earned $15.4 million, a figure that's manageable under the right trade conditions, but still significant enough to force tough roster decisions. With 1 year remaining on his deal, he's extension eligible this offseason before hitting unrestricted free agency in 2026. That gives the Knicks a choice: secure him now for the long term, or wait to see how he fits before committing big money. And here's where the stakes get higher. Caldwell Pope's value lies in the subtle things that don't always show up in a box score. The quick closeout that forces a pass instead of a shot, the perfectly timed rotation to shut down a drive, the hard cut that creates an open look for a teammate, or the calm knockdown three from the corner when the offense breaks down. These moments rarely make highlight reels, but they're the kind of winning plays that swing playoff series. Many Knicks fans recognize that value and see how his defensive instincts and experience could elevate the team's ceiling. But there's also a segment of the fan base that's focused on his scoring limitations. He's not a high-volume shot creator, he won't break down defenders in isolation, and while he's a consistent shooter, he's not a go-to offensive option. In today's NBA, where even role players are expected to create their own shot, that has fueled skepticism. From a pure basketball fit standpoint, though, Caldwell Pope is just about ideal for this Knicks roster. He's the defensive safety net on the perimeter, capable of taking the toughest guard or wing assignment while spacing the floor and playing within the system. He's the type of glue guy who raises the floor of any contender without demanding touches. But the business side of the NBA is unforgiving. The Knicks are already operating with one of the league's tighter payroll situations under the new CBA, and adding KCP could require sacrificing depth elsewhere. If they commit to a multi-year extension at market value, it might mean parting with other rotation players or passing on future roster upgrades. That's the balancing act. How do you add a proven champion without limiting your flexibility moving forward? On the flip side, if Caldwell Pope joins and delivers the kind of defensive and shooting consistency he's shown throughout his career, the Knicks might have no choice but to lock him in for the long term. If the fit isn't perfect, they could pivot, exploring a trade before the deadline or letting him walk next summer. The important part is that KCP isn't approaching this like a player unsure of his place in the league. He's a proven winner, and sources say he's eager for another situation where his impact is fully appreciated. Behind the scenes, he's been training with a focus on versatility, preparing to guard multiple positions, increase his volume from three, and adapt to any role a contender might need. If the Knicks decide to pull the trigger, this could be one of those moves that doesn't dominate headlines today, but becomes a defining moment by the time the postseason rolls around. If Robinson is indeed hinting at a personal breakthrough or a shift in how he approaches the game, the timing couldn't be more critical. The Knicks are entering a season where expectations are sky high, and any improvement from a core piece like him could have a ripple effect across the roster. Internally, the coaching staff has long believed Robinson still has another gear to hit, whether that's becoming a more aggressive rebounder on the offensive glass, adding a short-range jumper, or improving his free throw percentage to avoid being a late-game liability. Even small gains in those areas could significantly change how opposing defenses scheme against New York. Meanwhile, the front office is preparing for every possible outcome. According to league sources, New York has already begun quietly gauging the trade market for backup plans should extension talks with Robinson stall. That doesn't necessarily mean they're looking to move him right now, but in a tight cap environment, you can't afford to be caught off guard. The Knicks have been linked in passing to a few stretch five options, as well as defensive-minded bigs who could replicate some of Robinson's rim protection if needed. For the fan base, the situation has become a dividing line. Some argue Robinson's defensive impact is irreplaceable, and that the team should pay whatever it takes to keep him in blue and orange. Others believe this is the perfect window to sell high before his next contract potentially becomes a financial burden. The debate has spilled across social media, sports talk shows, and even into the halls of Madison Square Garden, where decision-makers are well aware of the stakes. One thing is clear: Robinson himself doesn't seem fazed by the noise. In recent workouts posted online, he's been seen in peak shape, moving fluidly and flashing the kind of timing and athleticism that made him a defensive cornerstone in the first place. He's also been more vocal in team setting, which could hint at a growing leadership role, something the Knicks have been eager to see from him. The coming months will reveal whether his cryptic "big changes" post refers to a personal transformation, a shift in the team's playing style, or perhaps a major roster shakeup that involves him directly. For now, all eyes remain on training camp, where Robinson's play, demeanor, and health will be under the microscope. Because if he starts the season strong, the Knicks' front office may find themselves facing the kind of decision that could define the franchise's trajectory for years to come. We've got a major update coming out of New York. Earlier today on SportsCenter, the conversation turned to Knicks center Mitchell Robinson, and let's just say he's making headlines for more than just his defensive play. Robinson recently fired back at some Knicks fans who've been calling on him to take a pay cut, and in the process, he dropped a promise that big changes are coming next season. We're going to walk through exactly what was said, what it means for the Knicks moving forward, and why this could shape their off-season plan. So, here's the backdrop. Robinson has been a major talking point this summer, mainly because he's now eligible for a contract extension. The timing got tricky for New York once they re-signed Mikal Bridges, which tightened the team's cap flexibility. That move makes it more challenging to keep Robinson unless he's willing to come back at a discount. And based on his latest comments, that doesn't sound like it's happening. This all started when a fan left a message on Robinson's Instagram, essentially saying, "Big Mitch, we need you to take a pay cut, or else you're getting shipped." The response from Robinson? A string of laughing emojis. The fan doubled down, saying, "Come on, man. New York has had your back for 7 years, and you don't care?" That's when Robinson pushed back harder, writing, "I went out there countless nights, doing the dirty work for this city, and still got criticized. Why would I care?" For context, Robinson's set to earn $12.9 million next season, fully guaranteed, which is also his cap hit for the Knicks. It's the final year of his 4-year deal, and he'll be extension eligible this offseason before hitting unrestricted free agency in 2026. That means the front office has a decision to make: lock him up now or wait to see what he delivers next season before committing to a new contract. And here's where the stakes get higher. Robinson clearly feels he hasn't gotten the respect he deserves, despite anchoring the defense and doing the little things that don't always show up in a box score. Many fans appreciate his role, but others focus on his offensive limitations, which has fueled criticism. From a basketball standpoint, Robinson remains just about as close to a perfect fit for what the Knicks want to be, as you'll find in today's league. He's the kind of rim protector that alters shots without even touching the ball, the type of rebounder who can turn a defensive stop into an instant fast break opportunity, and the kind of low-maintenance big man who doesn't need a dozen post-ups a night to impact winning. He knows his role, embraces it, and allows the team's offensive stars, Brunson, Bridges, Randall, to operate with space and confidence, knowing the paint is locked down behind them. But the reality is, fit alone doesn't pay the bills in the NBA. The business side of the sport is unavoidable. And for the Knicks, it's getting more complicated by the day. With one of the league's tighter payrolls under the new CBA, New York's margin for error is thin. Keeping Robinson at a premium salary might mean tough decisions elsewhere. Maybe letting go of rotation players they'd rather keep. Maybe bypassing opportunities to add depth at other positions. If he insists on top-dollar value for his services, the front office has to weigh that against the flexibility they'd lose. On the other hand, the equation changes dramatically if Robinson has the kind of season he's hinting at. If he can stay healthy, something that's been an issue in past years, and turn in a truly dominant campaign on both ends, New York might be boxed into rewarding him. That could mean a fresh multi-year deal, potentially securing his place as the team's defensive anchor for the foreseeable future, maybe even the rest of his career. But if his production stalls, or his health becomes a question again, the Knicks could pivot quickly, exploring trade options at the deadline or mapping out a sign-and-trade scenario next summer to recoup value. The thing is, Robinson isn't approaching this like a player unsure of his place. In fact, the opposite. On his personal Facebook page, he all but promised a major shift for next season, hinting that he has big changes in store, not just for his game, but possibly for his role and his overall approach. He didn't give specifics, but the tone was confident, even defiant. If you read between the lines, it sounds like a player ready to silence critics, maximize his contract year, and force the Knicks' hand in the best possible way. And for New York, that's both exciting and challenging, because if Robinson delivers on that promise, they'll have to decide whether to go all in on keeping their defensive backbone or gamble on finding someone else who can fill those shoes. We've got a major update coming out of New York. Earlier today on SportsCenter, the conversation turned to Knicks center Mitchell Robinson, and let's just say he's making headlines for more than just his defensive play. Robinson recently fired back at some Knicks fans who've been calling on him to take a pay cut, and in the process, he dropped a promise that big changes are coming next season. We're going to walk through exactly what was said, what it means for the Knicks moving forward, and why this could shape their off-season plans. So, here's the backdrop. Robinson has been a major talking point this summer, mainly because he's now eligible for a contract extension. The timing got tricky for New York once they re-signed Mikal Bridges, which tightened the team's cap flexibility. That move makes it more challenging to keep Robinson unless he's willing to come back at a discount. And based on his latest comments, that doesn't sound like it's happening. This all started when a fan left a message on Robinson's Instagram, essentially saying, "Big Mitch, we need you to take a pay cut, or else you're getting shipped." The response from Robinson? A string of laughing emoji. The fan doubled down, saying, "Come on, man. New York has had your back for 7 years, and you don't care?" That's when Robinson pushed back harder, writing, "I went out there countless nights doing the dirty work for this city and still got criticized. Why would I care?" For context, Robinson's set to earn $12.9 million next season, fully guaranteed, which is also his cap hit for the Knicks. It's the final year of his 4-year deal, and he'll be extension eligible this offseason before hitting unrestricted free agency in 2026. That means the front office has a decision to make: lock him up now, or wait to see what he delivers next season before committing to a new contract. And here's where the stakes get higher. Robinson clearly feels he hasn't gotten the respect he deserves despite anchoring the defense and doing. The truth is, Robinson's value often lies in the little things that don't always show up in the box score. The extra effort to contest a shot without fouling, the tap-out rebound that keeps a possession alive, the hard screen that frees up a shooter, or the way his presence alone deters opponents from even thinking about driving into the lane. Those nuances rarely make highlight reels, but they're exactly the kind of contributions that win playoff games. Many Knicks fans recognize and appreciate that. They see how his defensive IQ and hustle change the flow of a game. But there's also a vocal portion of the fan base that focuses on his offensive limitation. He's not stretching the floor, he's not a consistent post-up option, and his free throw shooting has been an ongoing challenge. In today's NBA, where even centers are expected to hit threes, or at least punish mismatches inside, that lack of offensive diversity has fueled criticism and, for some, overshadowed his defensive brilliance. From a pure basketball fit standpoint, though, Robinson is still about as close to ideal as it gets for this Knicks roster. He's their safety net on defense, protecting the rim like a human eraser, controlling the glass on both ends, and allowing the offensive stars to focus on what they do best without worrying about the paint. He's a glue piece in the truest sense, the kind of player who ties the whole system together. But the business side of the NBA is unforgiving. The Knicks are already operating with one of the league's tighter payroll situations under the new CBA rules, and keeping this core intact will require some difficult decisions. If Robinson wants to secure a top-dollar extension, and all indications are that he does, it could mean the front office has to cut ties with other role players or pass on potential roster upgrades. That's the balancing act facing New York. How do you reward one of your most important defenders without sacrificing the depth that makes the team so competitive? On the flip side, if he stays healthy and delivers a breakout season, the Knicks may have no choice but to reward him. That could mean a multi-year extension and a long-term future in New York. If not, the alternative could be a mid-season trade or sign and trade next summer. But Robinson isn't acting like a player unsure of his future. On his own social media, he hinted at a big year ahead, posting on Facebook that major changes are coming. It's not clear exactly what he meant, but if his tone is any indication, he's gearing up for something significant in the 2025 campaign. So here's what came out on First Take this morning, and it caught a lot of people off guard. NBA insiders are reporting a surprising new wrinkle in the New York Knicks' free agency plan. We already knew they were keeping tabs on a number of players, but now there's a fresh name surfacing in the conversation, one that's suddenly getting a lot more attention. The debate right now isn't just about who they should sign, but who actually fits best with what Mike Brown wants to build going into next season. And according to the panel, there's been a major update worth breaking down. Now, if you've been following the Knicks off-season chatter, you've probably noticed how many free agents have been linked to them over the past few weeks. It feels like every other day there's a new rumor, but the one that keeps coming back is Ben Simmons. Like it or not, Simmons has been at the center of conversations for multiple teams, including the Knicks and the Kings, as a potential low-cost, high-upside bench piece on a veteran's minimum deal. And, just like we've seen with every fan base that's connected to him, the reaction is split. Some see the upside, others can't get past the concern. What First Take emphasized, however, is that Simmons isn't the only name floating around in the conversation. Another intriguing possibility, and one that instantly grabbed the panel's attention, is Russell Westbrook. This isn't the first time his name has come up. SNY has touched on this scenario before, and one of the analysts earlier today doubled down on the idea. Though, with a heavy dose of realism, Westbrook is still very much a long shot. The Knicks' backcourt is already jam-packed, with established guards carving out significant roles, and there's no obvious path to giving Westbrook consistent, meaningful minutes. Still, there's an undeniable case to be made for him. When you put him side by side with Simmons and Malcolm Brogdon, Westbrook has arguably been the more impactful presence over the past few seasons. Not necessarily in raw scoring numbers, but in the way he influences the game's tempo and energy. While it's true that he's lost a fraction of that explosive first step that made him an MVP, Westbrook has managed to reinvent himself. He's embraced the gritty side of the game, playing hard-nosed perimeter defense, pushing the ball in transition with urgency, and injecting instant energy into whatever lineup he's in. There's also the intangible factor, that relentless competitive fire that's been his trademark for over a decade. He doesn't coast through possessions, he doesn't shy away from physicality, and he has a knack for creating momentum-shifting plays that don't always show up in the box score. On a short-term, low-cost deal, that kind of presence could be a quiet but significant boost for New York, especially in stretches where the offense goes stagnant. The real sticking point is whether Westbrook would be willing to embrace that kind of reduced role, essentially coming in as a spark off the bench, when the Knicks already have 3 capable guards ahead of him in the rotation. It's a balancing act between opportunity, ego, and fit. And as of now, that's what keeps this idea in the interesting but unlikely category. Last season, Westbrook averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Not quite the numbers he posted in his prime, but still the production of a legitimate NBA point guard. He's never been a great outside shooter, but he quietly knocked down 43% of his corner threes, while shooting 45% overall from the field and 32% from deep, right around his career average. At 37 years old next season, entering his 18th year, he's not the superstar he once was, but he's still a competitor who can impact games in bursts. When you stack him up against Ben Simmons statistically, Westbrook still comes out ahead in most categories. Simmons, of course, brings elite defense, position flexibility, and the ability to initiate the offense. And that's exactly why the Knicks are intrigued. His averages last year, 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists on 52% shooting, don't jump off the page, but his defensive impact does. Then there's Malcolm Brogdon, another player the Knicks have had interest in before. The panel noted that he had an uncharacteristically rough shooting year, hitting just 28% from deep. But they chalked it up to the losing situation he was in, saying that on a winning team like New York, he could bounce back to his career norm. We've seen him play at a high level in Indiana and Boston, so it's not unrealistic. Even in a down year, Brogdon still averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, while hitting 40% on corner threes. He's a steady defender and a veteran who knows his role. Exactly the kind of piece that could quietly strengthen a rotation without the spotlight that comes with bigger names. And here's the point that kept coming up on First Take. The Knicks already have a crowded backcourt. That's the #1 reason they're leaning more toward Ben Simmons than some of these other names. Simmons isn't locked into just one role. He can slide into multiple positions, defend across the board, and still initiate the offense. Westbrook, on the other hand, is a pure point guard. That's who he's always been. And at this stage of his career, that's not going to change. The Knicks have been very intentional about surrounding Jalen Brunson with other ball handlers, so he doesn't have to dominate the rock every single possession. In that sense, Westbrook does check some boxes for Mike Brown's system. He brings pace, leadership, and the kind of relentless energy that pushes a team forward. But you can't ignore the reality. He's not a shooter. And in today's NBA, that's a big limitation. Now, he's still quick, still knows how to speed up a game, and he could be an extension of the coaching staff on the floor. That's the veteran advantage. And while this Knicks roster isn't particularly young, most of these guys are in their prime, which means it's less about him mentoring a bunch of kids and more about adding another experienced competitor who knows what it takes to win. Statistically, Westbrook's playoff run was respectable, averaging 11.7 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists over 13 games in roughly 24 minutes a night. On paper, those numbers might not leap off the page, but they speak to a veteran who still knows how to impact a game in bursts. His shooting splits, however, told a different story, just under 40% from the field and 32% from beyond the arc. In the modern NBA, where spacing has become a non-negotiable for most playoff teams, that inefficiency becomes more noticeable. And in certain lineups, particularly if you pair him with Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, the floor can get cramped fast. Defenses will sag off, clog the paint, and dare multiple players to shoot, which can throw an entire offense out of rhythm. That's essentially the same issue that has followed Ben Simmons throughout his career. Size, strength, and defensive versatility are valuable. But if opponents don't respect your jumper, the offense can stagnate. Even so, Westbrook showed there's still juice in his game. He had big moments, most notably his standout Game 7 performance against the Clippers, where he posted 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals while shooting efficiently from the floor. Beyond the box score, his energy and intensity set a tone for his teammates, often giving his squad a boost when they needed it most. He also delivered in clutch situations during Denver's playoff run, including a critical game-winning steal in Game 1 of their first-round series that completely shifted the momentum. Plays like that are why coaches still trust him in high-leverage moments. He has the instincts, the experience, and the competitive fire to swing a game. But as the analysts noted, it's a move with clear pros and cons. The upside is leadership, playoff experience, and the ability to take over stretches of a game. The downside is fit and spacing, factors that can make or break a team's postseason success. And here's the twist. The Knicks aren't the only team in on Russ. The Kings reportedly have dreams of pairing Jonathan Kuminga with Westbrook this offseason. Meanwhile, there's another name that some in New York's front office are quietly pushing: Landry Shamet. The logic here is simple. The Knicks could use another quick-release shooter. Shamet proved his value when given consistent playoff minutes, shooting a ridiculous 54% from 3 in limited action. He's not going to run your offense, but that's what Jordan Clarkson's for. And the Knicks may be overlooking the fact that Clarkson can already take on that role. To me, Shamet is like a budget version of Dante DiVincenzo, still effective, still reliable, but without the big price tag. If it's not Shamet, then maybe Malcolm Brogdon makes more sense. Either way, the theme from the first take discussion was clear. Get someone who can actually hit a jumper. This team already has non-shooters in the rotation, and while Josh Hart can knock down shots when needed, he's not a high-volume threat. Adding another player who can't stretch the floor is risky, and it's why the front office needs to think carefully before going all in on someone like Simmons or Westbrook. Josh Hart's reluctance to consistently take shots from deep remains a talking point. At his best, he's proven he can be an effective shooter. He's had entire seasons hovering around the 40% mark from three. Over the last two postseasons, Hart has connected on 37% of his attempts from beyond the arc, showing he can deliver when it matters most. But during the regular season, that same confidence isn't always there, and it impacts the offense. While regular season wins and losses aren't the main concern, having him fully committed to taking those open looks is crucial. If that hesitation carries into the year, and you add players like Russell Westbrook or Ben Simmons into the mix alongside Mitchell Robinson, spacing could quickly become an issue. That kind of congestion would limit the fluidity of Mike Brown's offense, making it far less effective. So the question is, who should New York target next? Would you be interested in seeing Westbrook in a Knicks jersey? Drop your thoughts below. There's still plenty to cover in free agency, and upcoming discussions will connect these rumors to broader roster strategies rather than just throwing out random player names or Photoshop swaps back-to-back. The countdown to training camp has officially begun, and the excitement is real. We're just weeks away from basketball being back, and with that comes a wave of roster activity. Expect the Knicks to fill out training camp spots, finalize two-way deals, lock in a veteran minimum signing, and add a rookie minimum contract. The next few days and weeks will be busy, and every move will be worth tracking. Stay tuned, keep notifications on, and get ready for non-stop updates as the Knicks gear up for a pivotal season.